Captain Elian Mars peered through the viewport of the Quantum Guardian, his gaze fixed on the black expanse speckled with distant stars. He stood in silence, the weight of command resting on his shoulders as the ship glided silently through the cosmos. Today, the edges of human-controlled space felt more like the boundaries of an encroaching wilderness, vast and unpredictable. "Sir, sensors detect quantum distortions off the starboard bow," reported Lieutenant Harlan, his voice steady despite the undercurrent of urgency this news carried. The bridge, usually a beacon of calm precision, now echoed with a low buzz of activity as the crew responded with measured efficiency. Elian turned, his eyes narrowing. "Show me the readings," he ordered, stepping toward the main console where the data flickered on the screen. Patterns of light danced across his face, casting sharp shadows that matched the lines of concern etched into his brow. The sensor data painted a clear picture. A large, unidentified fleet was moving towards them, its quantum signature masked in complexity. "Options?" Elian asked, his tone crisp. "We could cloak and observe, or retreat and prepare," Harlan suggested, his hands poised over the controls, ready to execute any command. Elian considered the choices. Each moment brought the unknown fleet closer. Decision-making in such instances wasn't just about tactics. It was about survival. "Prepare the cloaking device, but keep our weapons hot. We're not running yet," he decided, his voice firm, resonating with a resolve that reassured his crew. As the Quantum Guardian shifted silently into stealth mode, the stars seemed to blur, a visual testament to the ship's advanced capabilities. Elian watched, his mind racing through scenarios. Whoever they were, this incoming fleet was about to learn that underestimating a human battleship, especially one as advanced as the Quantum Guardian, could be their last mistake. The cloaked Quantum Guardian hung in the void like a specter, invisible to the naked eye, its presence betrayed only by the slight distortion of the starlight. Captain Elian Mars remained at the viewport, his senses sharpening as the alien fleet materialized from the quantum fog, their ship slicing through the cosmos with eerie silence. "Visuals on screen," Elian commanded. The view shifted, bringing the approaching ships into focus. Their hulls, sleek and menacing, reflected the cold light of distant suns, casting an almost ghostly glow inside the bridge. "Captain, no communications or hails detected. They're silent," Harlan reported, his fingers gliding over the sensor panel, eyes flicking with the data stream. The taste of tension was palpable, a tangy fear that seasoned the recycled air of the spacecraft. Elian's nostrils filled with the sterile scent of the bridge, a sharp contrast to the looming threat displayed before them. He stepped closer to the screen, his eyes tracing the formation of the alien ships. "Any signs of weapons? Or are they just parading?" Harlan adjusted the settings, enhancing the image. "No visible armaments, but their energy patterns suggest they're not just here for show. They could be powering up something big." Elian's jaw tightened. His hand instinctively reached for the console, the cool metal beneath his fingers grounding him. "Options? We cloak and wait, or we initiate first contact protocol," Harlan suggested, his tone devoid of preference, presenting the facts as they stood. Elian pondered the silence of the fleet. It was a void waiting to be filled, either with peace or conflict. "Set up a defensive perimeter. Deploy drones for a closer look. Let's not poke the bear just yet." As the drones dispersed from the Quantum Guardian, gliding silently through space, their tiny thrusters a whisper against the cosmic winds, Elian tasted the bitterness of caution in his mouth. This was the dance of diplomacy, played out on a stage of stars and shadows. The drone feeds beamed back, their sensors cutting through the darkness to reveal the intricacies of the alien technology. Harlan relayed the visuals to the main screen, where patterns of energy flowed like rivers of light across the hulls of the alien ships. "See that?" Elian pointed at a segment of the hull where the light seemed to pulse rhythmically. "Energy shields, or maybe something offensive." Harlan nodded. "It's a sophisticated setup. Could be dual purpose." Elian's skin prickled with the chill of the bridge air, a reminder of the isolation of deep space. His gaze returned to the fleet, now a cluster of potential calamities that floated before them. Keep us cloaked and monitor their movements. Any change, I want to know immediately. Understood, Captain, Harlan responded, his voice a soft echo in the tense atmosphere. Elian stepped back from the console, his senses fully engaged. The slight vibration of the deck beneath his boots, the visual feast of alien technology, and the sharp, clean smell of the bridge coalesced into a singular moment of clarity. They were in uncharted waters, navigating by the stars of an unknown sky, and the next move could either bring salvation or ruin. As the Quantum Guardian held its breath in the cloak of invisibility, the alien fleet seemed to stir, a dragon waking from slumber. Captain Elian Mars watched, his eyes narrow slits, as the ships shifted formation, their movements precise and deliberate like pieces on a cosmic chessboard. Their silence was unsettling, a muted orchestra before the storm. Harlan's voice broke the quiet. Captain, the drones are sending new data. There's movement. On the main screen, the patterns of the ships shifted into more aggressive stances. Their sleek forms cut through the void, leaving trails of displaced particles that shimmered like dust motes in sunlight. Analysis? Elian's voice was gravel, grounding the tension that threatened to spiral. They're forming a blockade, sir. Looks like they intend to corral us or something entering this sector. Harlan's hands moved with practiced grace, pulling up trajectories and potential entry points. The taste of metal filled Elian's mouth as he contemplated their slim options. Prepare for a soft breach. I want communications open, but shields up. We'll send a greeting, see if they bite. Harlan nodded, his expression a mask of concentration as he configured the systems. The bridge lights dimmed briefly as power rerouted to shields and communication arrays, the stars outside the viewport blurring into lines as the ship's systems adjusted to the new command. Elian's command was a whisper, almost lost in the vastness of space, broadcast on all channels. The message went out, a digital olive branch extending across the darkness, its reception uncertain. The response came quickly, not through the comm systems but as a visible tightening of the alien formation, the first tangible whisper of hostility. Visual change only, no communications, Harlan reported, his voice a steady beacon. The silence was a tangible cloak, heavier with each passing second. Elian's skin prickled with the chill of the bridge, a physical echo of the cold reception. He watched as the alien ships began to pulse with a subtle glow, a heartbeat of light that signaled an impending engagement. Options? Elian's voice cut through the tension, each word sharp and clear. We could attempt to break the blockade with a hyper jump, but it's risky with their positioning. Any miscalculation could lead us into their arms, Harlan suggested, his gaze locked on the screen where the alien ships now seemed like a wall of impenetrable night. Elian weighed the words, his mind racing through scenarios. No, we hold. Enhance our shields and continue monitoring. There's more at play here than a simple standoff. The bridge settled into a rhythm of watchful waiting. Outside, the alien ships maintained their blockade, a silent sentry that promised violence at any provocation. Inside, the crew of the Quantum Guardian stood vigilant, their bodies tense with anticipation, their senses tuned to the ship's heartbeat. Elian felt the deck beneath his feet, the slight vibration an anchor to the moment. He tasted the recycled air, a flavor of steel and vigilance, as his eyes remained fixed on the tableau before them. In the quiet, the stakes of their mission grew heavier, a reminder of the fragile line between diplomacy and war in the uncharted symphony of the stars. Amid the tense silence of the standoff, Captain Elian Mars felt the charged air of the bridge crackle with the crew's restrained energy. Outside, the alien fleet remained a stoic wall, their ships aligned with militaristic precision. Inside, the Quantum Guardian's crew waited for a break in the impasse, their nerves as taut as the strings of a violin. Harlan broke the silence with a cautious tone. Captain, thermal scans show a significant heat buildup on their main vessels. It could be a prelude to weapon activation. The words hung in the air, a stark reminder of their precarious situation. Elian's response was measured, his voice a calm counterpoint to the rising anxiety. Reroute auxiliary power to our forward shields. Prepare all non-essential crew for potential impact. His commands flowed into the quiet, steering their collective focus toward survival. The scent of brewing coffee mingled oddly with the sterile air, a bitter reminder of the mundane world they had temporarily left behind. The crew moved with silent efficiency, their actions smooth and practiced, yet underlaid with a palpable tension. Elian turned to the viewport once more, his gaze piercing the void where the enemy ships formed their blockade. The glow of their vessels was like the eyes of a beast in the dark, unblinking and foreboding. He could almost taste the bitterness of the standoff, a flavor harsh and unnerving. "Initiate a passive scan of their configuration," Elian instructed Harlan, his mind working through potential tactics. "I want to know the weak points in their formation." The bridge was a symphony of low-key activity, the crew's movements a dance choreographed by necessity. Harlan's hands moved deftly over the controls, pulling up the desired data. The screen displayed the alien formation in greater detail, highlighting potential vulnerabilities in their seemingly impervious wall. "Here," Harlan pointed at a segment of the screen where the heat signatures spiked anomalously. "Their shields might be weaker here, an oversight or a trap, hard to say." Elian considered this new information, his thoughts as sharp as the edge of a knife. "Keep monitoring that spot. Signal the engine room. Tell them to stand by for evasive maneuvers." As they waited, the texture of the moment changed. The distant stars seemed to watch, their cold light a silent witness to the unfolding drama. Elian felt the deck beneath his boots, the solid reality of it grounding him amidst the sea of uncertainty. The alien fleet made a sudden adjustment, their ships tightening the blockade as if the Quantum Guardian had already tried to break free. Elian's hand clenched at his side, the fabric of his uniform rough against his palm. "Captain, they are maneuvering!" Harlan's voice was a sharp spike in the calm. "Looks like they're preparing to—" Before he could finish, the space around them shimmered as if reality itself was warping. Elian felt a chill run down his spine, the air cooling rapidly, a prelude to something unknown. "Steady," he commanded, his voice a beacon as they braced for what was coming. The crew stood ready, their resolve a testament to their training and their captain's leadership. As the first ripple of the alien attack began to unfold, Elian knew that their response would define the path ahead, not just for them, but for humanity itself. The dance of diplomacy had ended, and the ballet of battle was about to begin. The air on the bridge of the Quantum Guardian tensed as the alien ships completed their maneuver, a silent, menacing ballet in the vacuum of space. The shimmering barrier that had briefly warped reality solidified into a visible energy field, encasing the alien vessels in a cocoon of pulsating light. Captain Elian Mars's eyes narrowed, his focus sharp as the edge of a dagger, as he absorbed the unfolding spectacle. "Analysis now," he barked, his voice slicing through the tense atmosphere. Harlan responded with swift keystrokes, his fingers a blur over the sensor arrays. "Their shields. They're unlike anything we've cataloged. It's not just defensive. There's a feedback loop generating power from our scanning beams," Harlan reported, astonishment threading his voice. Elian's mind raced. This wasn't just a blockade. It was a trap, one that turned their own curiosity into a weapon against them. The taste of iron filled his mouth, the flavor of adrenaline, as his heart pounded a relentless rhythm. "Cease all active scans. Switch to passive observation only. Do it quietly," he commanded, his voice low and steady. As the crew adjusted their systems, the smell of cold electronics filled the air, a stark reminder of the technology that both sustained and imprisoned them in deep space. Outside, the alien formation shifted again, their ships aligning into a new configuration that suggested communication or a shared consciousness among them. "Captain, there's an energy buildup within the central ship. It could be a prelude to—" Harlan's report trailed off as the central vessel began to glow, a beacon of impending doom or salvation, unclear in its intent. Elian stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the display. The gentle whir of the air recycling system filled the silent pause, a soft whisper against the storm of possibilities. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. I want options on the table within the minute, he instructed, his voice a calm command amidst the storm of uncertainty. The bridge crew moved with a fluid efficiency born of countless drills, their actions belying the undercurrent of fear. The alien light intensified, casting eerie shadows across the faces of the crew, painting them in hues of doubt and determination. Sir, the energy signature is peaking. If they're powering a weapon, we have mere moments to react. Harlan's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his concern. Elian felt the deck vibrate subtly beneath his feet, the ship bracing for the unknown as he weighed their slim chances. Align us for the jump. If that's their play, we'll meet it on our terms, he decided, his decision ringing with the finality of a closing door. The Quantum Guardian reoriented, the stars outside twisting as the ship prepared to leap into the unknown. Elian glanced around the bridge, his crew's faces set with resolve, their readiness a testament to their courage. As the central alien ship's glow reached a blinding crescendo, a deep silence enveloped the bridge, the calm before the inevitable storm. Elian's last thought before the light enveloped them was a silent vow to navigate the perilous paths ahead, the mystery of the aliens' intentions hanging over them like a sword of Damocles. As the blinding light enveloped the Quantum Guardian, reality seemed to warp around them. The sensation was disorienting. The deck beneath Captain Elian Mars and his crew seemed to tilt and swirl as if caught in a cosmic maelstrom. The intense brightness faded as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind an eerie afterimage that danced across Elian's vision. "We're through, sir," Harlan announced, his voice tinged with relief, yet edged with uncertainty. "Scans show we've jumped beyond the blockade, but we're not where we planned." Elian steadied himself against the console, his senses reeling from the jump's unexpected outcome. The air tasted metallic, a sharp reminder of the ship's strained systems working overtime. "Location now," he demanded, squinting as the main display recalibrated, bringing a star map into focus. "We're on the edge of the Graviton field, Captain. It's uncharted territory," Harlan replied, his fingers flying over the console, bringing up data on their surroundings. The view outside showed a swirling mass of cosmic dust and gas, colors blending into a tapestry of deep violets and cold blues. "Any sign of the alien fleet?" Elian's question hung in the air, as crisp as the artificial chill that permeated the bridge. "No, sir. It seems the jump scattered us from their sensors, or perhaps theirs from ours," Harlan said, his brow furrowed in concentration. Elian absorbed this information, the silence of the unknown space filling the bridge, punctuated only by the soft clicks of the ship's systems adjusting to the new environment. The cold touch of the console under his fingers was a stark contrast to the warmth of his racing pulse as he contemplated their isolation in this uncharted sector. "Keep us here in the shadows of the field. Run passive scans only. I want to understand where we are before we make another move," Elian instructed, his voice low, masking the undercurrent of urgency. The bridge lights dimmed slightly, conserving energy, casting the crew in a palette of subdued grays and blues. Harlan nodded, his attention riveted to the sensors as they whispered secrets of the strange new area. As they drifted silently, Elian paced the length of the bridge, each step measured and silent on the soft carpet. The taste of stale coffee lingered on his tongue, a bitter reminder of the long hours they had been at alert. Suddenly, a soft chime broke the quiet. "Captain, you'd better see this," Harlan called out, gesturing to a series of images flickering on the screen. They showed a structure, massive and enigmatic, its surfaces reflecting the nebula's eerie light. "What in the stars is that?" Elian murmured, leaning in to get a closer look. The structure was unlike any human or known alien architecture, a mystery carved out of darkness and light. "We don't know, sir, but it's emitting a low-frequency signal. It's not just noise, it's patterned, rhythmic," Harlan explained, his voice a mix of awe and apprehension. Elian felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "Keep us cloaked and continue observing. Whatever that is, it might hold the key to understanding what the alien fleet was guarding or fleeing from." The mystery of their situation deepened, weaving a tapestry of intrigue and danger that was as palpable as the vibrating tension that filled the Quantum Guardian. The unknown structure, with its cryptic signals, promised answers but also hinted at new, possibly darker questions. In the shadowy depths of the graviton field, the Quantum Guardian remained veiled in stealth, its sensors probing the enigmatic structure that loomed before them. The structure, colossal and inscrutable, pulsed with a rhythmic signal that resonated through the ship's hull, a whisper from the void. Captain Elian Mars studied the readings, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the display. "Harlan, enhance the image. I want to know what we're dealing with," he commanded, his voice a steady force against the backdrop of cosmic uncertainty. As Harlan adjusted the sensors, the image sharpened, revealing the intricate patterns that adorned the structure's surface. It was not merely a construct, but seemed organic, its design woven into the fabric of space itself. "Looks almost like script," Harlan muttered, zooming in on the flowing lines. "But nothing in our databases matches these symbols." Elian's gaze was fixed on the screen, his mind racing with possibilities. The cold air of the bridge prickled his skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of his racing thoughts. Could it be a beacon, a warning or a greeting? Or a tombstone, Harlan added quietly, the idea hanging between them like a specter. The faint taste of recycled air filled Elian's mouth as he considered their next move. "Deploy a probe. I want a closer look. Keep it passive. No active scans that might trigger a response." Harlan nodded, executing the command with swift precision. On the main display, the tiny probe drifted toward the structure, its journey silent and ghostly against the cosmic ballet of dust and gas that surrounded them. As they waited, Elian felt the subtle vibrations of the ship, an undercurrent of life within the metal beast they called home. The tension among the crew was palpable, each member silent, their eyes reflecting the stars that witnessed their voyage. Minutes stretched into an eternity before the probe's feed flickered to life on the screen. It revealed the surface of the structure up close, the symbols clearer now, imbued with an alien beauty that was both mesmerizing and ominous. "There's a pattern to the emissions," Harlan broke the silence, pointing to the rhythmic spikes that mirrored the visual pulsations. "It's repeating, almost like a heartbeat." Elian leaned closer, his senses attuned to every flicker and shift on the display. "Translate it. Find the key to these patterns." Harlan's fingers danced across the console, algorithms weaving through the data like threads in a loom. "Working on it, Captain. It's complex, layers upon layers of encryption or language." The mystery of the structure deepened, a puzzle locked in the heart of the unknown. As the Quantum Guardian hovered silently, the taste of anticipation was sharp on Elian's tongue, a flavor as complex as the stars themselves. The bridge remained bathed in a subdued light, the crew's presence a quiet testament to their unspoken resolve. Outside, the structure continued to pulse, a beacon in the darkness, calling to them with a voice of light and shadow. Elian straightened, his decision clear. "We stay until we crack this. Whatever secrets this holds, it's key to understanding not just the alien fleet, but perhaps the very nature of this sector." With the enigma unfolding before them, each pulsation from the structure seemed to draw them deeper into the web of cosmos and time, a symphony of light that held both promise and peril. The silence of the Quantum Guardian's bridge was palpable as the crew stared at the display, the structure before them pulsing like a cosmic beacon. As they delved deeper into the analysis, the rhythmic light seemed to resonate, a visual echo in the dark void of space. "Captain, I've made some progress with the translation," Harlan announced, breaking the concentrated quiet. His voice, usually calm, carried a note of intrigue. "It's not just a message or a signal. It seems to be a set of coordinates." Captain Elian Mars leaned in, his interest piqued. The metallic tang of the ship's air, usually unnoticed, seemed sharper as he focused on the implications of Harlan's discovery. "Coordinates? Leading to what? Another part of this field? Or something beyond?" "Unclear, sir," Harlan replied, adjusting the display to overlay the coordinates with their current star charts. The destination isn't on any charted route. It's deeper into the field, towards a sector that's still a blank space to us. The idea of venturing further into the unknown sent a thrill mixed with apprehension through Elian. The bridge seemed to contract, the walls inching closer as the vastness of their next decision loomed over them. Prepare a recon drone. We'll follow these coordinates, but at a distance. I want eyes on whatever is out there before we commit. As Harlan set up the drone deployment, the subtle scent of lubricant from the ship's joints filled the air, a reminder of the Quantum Guardian's continuous battle against the entropy of space. The drone, a sliver of silver, shot out from the ship, its journey marked by a faint trail of ionic discharge visible against the backdrop of swirling cosmic gases. The crew watched its progress, the drone's cameras feeding real-time images back to them. As it moved deeper into the graviton field, the stars seemed to warp and dance around it, the natural phenomena of the field interacting with the drone's sensors. Visuals are getting distorted by the gravitational anomalies, Harlan noted, tweaking the settings to compensate for the interference. But it's holding course. Elian's hands clasped behind his back, his posture rigid with anticipation. The taste of cold coffee lingered on his tongue, a bitter reminder of the long hours they had already spent at the edge of the unknown. Keep it on course. Anything changes, I want to know immediately. The drone's journey continued, a silent sentinel moving towards a destination set by an ancient alien directive. The display showed a blurring of stars, a mesmerizing pattern that suggested the hidden complexities of this unexplored region. Suddenly, the drone's feed shimmered with a burst of light, then stabilized to reveal a sight that drew a collective gasp from the crew. Ahead, obscured by the gravitational distortions of the field, lay what appeared to be a structure, or perhaps a ship, vastly different from the beacon they had been analyzing. "It's massive," Harlan whispered, zooming in on the structure. It was enveloped in a shroud of cosmic dust, but its outline was unmistakable. "Whatever it is, it's not just part of the field. It looks constructed, intentional." Elian nodded, his eyes fixed on the screen. "Maintain distance. Continue monitoring." The mystery deepened, pulling them further into its grip, each discovery leading not to answers, but to more profound questions. What lay ahead was unknown, but Elian knew one thing for certain. They were no longer just observers in this cosmic dance, but reluctant participants drawn inexorably towards their next encounter. The image of the colossal structure loomed larger on the Quantum Guardian's main display as the drone pushed forward, guided by the silent commands from Harlan's steady hands. Captain Elian Mars watched, his senses heightened, as the edges of the mysterious construct came into sharper focus, its massive form cutting a dark silhouette against the glittering tapestry of the cosmos. "Enhance that section," Elian directed, pointing to a part of the structure where irregular patterns suggested openings or perhaps dock areas. The display obeyed, zooming in to reveal the intricate details of the architecture, a complex network of lines and angles that suggested an intelligence and purpose, bewildering in their implications. "The design isn't random. Looks almost ceremonial," Harlan noted, his voice a mix of wonder and unease as he documented every nuance for further analysis. Elian felt a chill not from the air conditioning, which maintained the bridge at a constant, comfortable temperature, but from the realization of stepping into a story that began long before humans ventured into the stars. His gaze remained fixed on the structure, the faint vibrations of the ship under his feet, a constant reminder of their deep incursion into the unknown. As the drone ventured closer, a sudden flare of light from the structure bathed the bridge in a pale, eerie glow. The crew squinted against the brightness, which receded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving a tingling sensation in their eyes and a spike of adrenaline in their veins. "What was that?" Elian snapped, his instincts on high alert. "Seems like some kind of energy discharge, non-hostile, possibly a defensive mechanism," Harlan responded, recalibrating the sensors to adjust for the unexpected burst. The taste of metallic tang filled Elian's mouth, his body reacting to the surge of stress as he considered their next move. Keep the drone at a safe distance. I don't want any more surprises. Continue recording everything. Yes, Captain, Harlan replied, his fingers gliding over the controls with practiced ease, even as his own pulse raced with the excitement and danger of their discovery. The drone maintained its vigil, circling the structure at a cautious remove. Its cameras captured images that would puzzle and fascinate the crew, symbols that hinted at communication, ports that might have once welcomed travelers from distant worlds, and the overwhelming sense of desolation that spoke of a place long abandoned. Elian paced the bridge, each step resonant with the ship's soft thrum of operation, a backdrop to his racing thoughts. The structure before them was a relic of a time and technology so advanced and alien that it was like gazing into the abyss of time itself. Elian's hands clasped behind his back, his posture rigid with anticipation. The taste of cold coffee lingered on his tongue, a bitter reminder of the long hours they had already spent at the edge of the unknown. Keep it on course. Anything changes, I want to know immediately. The drone's journey continued, a silent sentinel moving towards a destination set by an ancient alien directive. The display showed a blurring of stars, a mesmerizing pattern that suggested the hidden complexities of this unexplored region. Suddenly, the drone's feed shimmered with a burst of light, then stabilized to reveal a sight that drew a collective gasp from the crew. Ahead, obscured by the gravitational distortions of the field, lay what appeared to be a structure, or perhaps a ship, vastly different from the beacon they had been analyzing. It's massive, Harlan whispered, zooming in on the structure. It was enveloped in a shroud of cosmic dust, but its outline was unmistakable. Whatever it is, it's not just part of the field. It looks constructed, intentional. Elian nodded, his eyes fixed on the screen. Maintain distance. Continue monitoring. The mystery deepened, pulling them further into its grip, each discovery leading not to answers, but to more profound questions. What lay ahead was unknown, but Elian knew one thing for certain. They were no longer just observers in this cosmic dance, but reluctant participants drawn inexorably towards their next encounter. The image of the colossal structure loomed larger on the Quantum Guardian's main display as the drone pushed forward, guided by the silent commands from Harlan's steady hands. Captain Elian Mars watched, his senses heightened, as the edges of the mysterious construct came into sharper focus, its massive form cutting a dark silhouette against the glittering tapestry of the cosmos. "Enhance that section," Elian directed, pointing to a part of the structure where irregular patterns suggested openings or perhaps dock areas. The display obeyed, zooming in to reveal the intricate details of the architecture, a complex network of lines and angles that suggested an intelligence and purpose, bewildering in their implications. The design isn't random. Looks almost ceremonial, Harlan noted, his voice a mix of wonder and unease as he documented every nuance for further analysis. Elian felt a chill not from the air conditioning, which maintained the bridge at a constant, comfortable temperature, but from the realization of stepping into a story that began long before humans ventured into the stars. His gaze remained fixed on the structure, the faint vibrations of the ship under his feet, a constant reminder of their deep incursion into the unknown. As the drone ventured closer, a sudden flare of light from the structure bathed the bridge in a pale, eerie glow. The crew squinted against the brightness, which receded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving a tingling sensation in their eyes and a spike of adrenaline in their veins. "What was that?" Elian snapped, his instincts on high alert. "Seems like some kind of energy discharge, non-hostile, possibly a defensive mechanism," Harlan responded, recalibrating the sensors to adjust for the unexpected burst. The taste of metallic tang filled Elian's mouth, his body reacting to the surge of stress as he considered their next move. "Keep the drone at a safe distance. I don't want any more surprises. Continue recording everything." "Yes, Captain," Harlan replied, his fingers gliding over the controls with practiced ease, even as his own pulse raced with the excitement and danger of their discovery. The drone maintained its vigil, circling the structure at a cautious remove. Its cameras captured images that would puzzle and fascinate the crew, symbols that hinted at communication, ports that might have once welcomed travelers from distant worlds, and the overwhelming sense of desolation that spoke of a place long abandoned. Elian paced the bridge, each step resonant with the ship's soft thrum of operation, a backdrop to his racing thoughts. The structure before them was a relic of a time and technology so advanced and alien that it was like gazing into the abyss of time itself. "Captain, there's a pattern to the energy discharges. It's repeating at intervals, almost like it's breathing," Harlan observed, his voice filled with a mix of awe and apprehension. Elian stopped, turning back to the display. "Breathing?" "Yes, sir. Like it's alive. Or at least, it was designed to mimic life." The mystery of the alien structure deepened, its secrets veiled behind layers of time and space. Elian knew they stood on the threshold of a discovery that could change everything. But with each step forward, the weight of their isolation grew, a stark reminder that in the vastness of space, they were but specks against the infinite. The alien structure's rhythmic energy pulses, described by Harlan as breathing, had now synchronized eerily with the drone's observing orbit, as if it were aware of their presence. Captain Elian Mars watched the display, his intuition prickling along his skin like a cold draft in an otherwise sealed room. "Harlan, let's not just orbit. Get us some samples. I want to know what it's made of," Elian commanded, breaking the tense silence that had settled over the Quantum Guardian's bridge. "Affirmative, Captain. Deploying the nanocollectors now," Harlan responded, initiating the sequence with a few swift keystrokes. Outside, tiny machines dispersed from the drone like a swarm of silver insects, eager to fulfill their programmed destiny. As the collectors approached the structure, their minute forms glinting against the backdrop of the void, a subtle shift occurred in the pattern of the energy pulses. The glow intensified, washing the bridge in a spectral light that seemed to pulse in time with the crew's heightened anticipation. The air tasted dry, recycled too many times through the ship's filters, carrying a faint undertone of the crew's tension. Elian's mouth felt parched as he watched the nanocollectors disappear into the luminous facade of the gargantuan relic. "Collectors have made contact, sir. We should have a full analysis shortly," Harlan reported, his eyes never leaving the screen where data began to stream in, a digital waterfall of information. The structure's surface responded to their touch, rippling slightly where the collectors landed. The display captured this interaction, magnifying the oscillation until it looked like waves spreading across a cosmic shore. "Any reaction from the structure?" Elian asked, aware that each action might provoke an unknown response. "Negative on aggression, but it's reacting, almost like it's curious about the collectors," Harlan observed, his voice a blend of fascination and unease. The bridge fell silent as they awaited the analysis, each member mentally bracing for possibilities ranging from groundbreaking discoveries to catastrophic defenses. The wait felt interminable, the only sound the soft whisper of air circulation, until Harlan finally broke the quiet. "Results are in, Captain. The structure is primarily composed of an unknown alloy, resilient yet. It's embedded with organic compounds. This isn't just technology. It's bioengineered." Elian absorbed this information, the implications profound and unsettling. "So we're potentially dealing with a living structure, or at least one that was intended to mimic life closely." "Seems so, sir. And there's more. These compounds aren't just alien in structure. They're unlike anything we've encountered. The closest analogy would be coral or bone, materials that are part of a once living organism." The revelation added a new layer of complexity to their mission. This structure wasn't merely a relic. It might be akin to an ancient organism, a monumental beacon left by a civilization that blurred the lines between biology and technology. "Keep monitoring the structure's reactions. I want continuous updates on any changes," Elian instructed, his mind racing with the ramifications of their findings. As they delved deeper into the secrets of the ancient edifice, each piece of data added to the mosaic of mystery enveloping them. What had at first seemed a derelict monument was now pulsing with life, metaphorically and perhaps literally. its secrets locked away in the fabric of its creation, waiting for the right moment to awaken fully. Captain Elian Mars studied the readings, his mind weaving through the implications. The alien construct wasn't just an artifact. It was engineered with a purpose beyond mere architecture. Whether that purpose had been abandoned or still lingered in some dormant state remained unclear. The bridge lights flickered for half a second, an unnoticed detail to most, but Elian caught it. "Harlan, run a full diagnostic on our systems," he ordered, his voice a razor cutting through the tension. Harlan's fingers navigated the console swiftly. "No faults on our end, Captain. All primary and secondary systems remain stable." Elian's gaze returned to the structure displayed on the main screen. The bioalloy composition pulsed faintly, a pattern that seemed too precise to be random. The Quantum Guardian wasn't merely observing, it was being observed in return. "Keep an eye on those frequencies," Elian instructed, stepping closer to the display. The proximity of the relic made the recycled air taste even more artificial, as if the very presence of the structure was rewriting the space around it. His fingers curled slightly, the sensation of static brushing his palm, not physical but instinctual. The probe, still hovering near the structure, sent back an unexpected signal spike. "Captain," Harlan called out, his tone clipped, "we just received a return transmission from the construct. It's weak, almost buried under the other emissions, but it's there." Elian exhaled slowly. "Decipher it. If it's a message, we need to know what it says." The bridge crew worked in near silence, the soft clicks of the interface the only accompaniment to the slow, deliberate pulsing of the structure. The rhythmic energy, once seemingly erratic, was now aligning to something, an unknown frequency that had begun to ripple through the ship's sensors. Harlan leaned forward as data scrolled across the screen. "The pattern. It's a response to our scans. But it's not just one transmission, Captain. It's layered, like it's been waiting for something to trigger it." Elian's fingers pressed against the armrest of his chair, the sensation of cool leather grounding him. "If it's a recording, what's it trying to say?" Harlan didn't respond immediately, his focus shifting as more data unraveled before him. Then, as if realizing the weight of what he was about to say, he straightened. "Sir, the closest translation we can piece together reads, 'You are not the first.'" The words settled like a heavy weight over the bridge. The air suddenly felt thinner, the recycled atmosphere doing little to dispel the tension clamping down on Elian's chest. The phrase carried implications far beyond a simple message. It was a warning, a relic speaking across time. Elian's jaw tensed. "Expand the translation matrix. If this thing has more to say, I want to hear it." As Harlan continued working, Elian turned back to the display. The structure had been silent for an untold age, yet now it had chosen to speak. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of the void, whatever had come before them had left a message etched in light and stone. The question wasn't just what it meant. It was why it had waited until now to be heard. The words, "You are not the first," lingered on the bridge like a specter, threading unease through the air. Captain Elian Mars remained motionless, his breath measured as the weight of the message settled. The construct had waited, centuries, perhaps longer, silent until now. The question gnawed at him. Not the first to what? Discover this place? Trigger its signal? Be warned? Harlan's hands moved swiftly across the console, fine-tuning the translation matrix. "The structure is responding again," he murmured, adjusting the signal filters. "Another transmission is forming. Longer this time, fragmented but repeating." "Play it," Elian commanded. The bridge speakers crackled, then emitted a sequence of tonal shifts, layered in a way that felt almost mathematical. The sound was neither mechanical nor entirely organic. It carried depth, a deliberate cadence, as if something long dormant were now stirring. Harlan's translation screen scrolled rapidly. He exhaled, reading aloud. "If you hear this, the cycle has begun again. Leave before it arrives." Elian's pulse quickened. Cycle? Before what arrives? His voice was sharp, cutting through the tension that had stretched thick across the bridge. Harlan scrubbed through the data, his brows furrowing. That part is unclear. The transmission degrades here, but there's a reference to an awakening. He hesitated before adding, and something about an invasion. The recycled air of the ship carried an unfamiliar weight now, a thickness that pressed against Elian's ribs. He could taste the bitterness of anticipation, the metallic tang of unease curling at the back of his throat. The structure isn't just ancient, he muttered. It's a warning beacon. The words barely left his lips before the construct's pulsing energy flared again, this time expanding outward. The nebulous dust scattered in waves, shifting the distant light into unnatural hues. The distortion rippled through the Quantum Guardian's sensors, sending data streams into chaotic spirals. Massive energy surge detected, Harlan called out, his fingers a blur as he fought to stabilize the readings. It's broadcasting beyond the field. Far beyond. Elian's chest tightened. Who else just heard that? No one had an answer, but the question itself was enough. The structure's final pulse faded, leaving behind a silence heavier than before. It was no longer just reacting. It had signaled something, or someone. Elian straightened, his mind already moving through possibilities, none of them comforting. Full spectrum scan of surrounding space. If something's coming, I want to see it before it sees us. Harlan complied, his jaw tightening. The bridge's tension coiled, pressing down like an unseen force. The scan results returned in seconds, but what they revealed made the blood in Elian's veins run cold. Captain. Harlan's voice was quieter now, controlled but unmistakably grim. Multiple quantum disturbances just registered at the edge of the system, large-scale movements. Elian didn't need further clarification. He already knew. The beacon had sent its message, and something had answered. Captain Elian Mars stared at the data scrolling across the screen, his pulse steady but his mind racing. The quantum disturbances weren't random fluctuations. They were coordinated. Something had heard the beacon's call. Something was coming. "Estimate time to arrival," he ordered, his voice cutting through the charged air of the bridge. Harlan's hands moved swiftly over the controls, cross-referencing sensor readings. "Rough estimate, under 3 hours. Could be sooner if they push their drive capacity." Elian exhaled through his nose, his jaw tightening. That wasn't enough time to gather more intelligence on the construct, but it was enough to prepare for what came next. "Bring up a tactical grid," he instructed. "I need to know what we're working with." The display shifted, rendering a three-dimensional layout of the surrounding sector. The construct loomed at the center, the nebula's swirling dust forming a natural barrier at their backs. The Quantum Guardian floated just outside the structure's perimeter, a lone ship in a battlefield that hadn't yet begun. "We need to control the approach lanes," Elian muttered, studying the trajectories. "If they're coming in numbers, they'll try to encircle us, force a close-quarters engagement." Harlan nodded. "We could use the gravitational eddies in the field to our advantage. Anything coming in too fast risks destabilization." Elian tapped a command into the interface, highlighting potential ambush zones. "We seed these pockets with drone decoys. When they enter, we trigger false energy spikes, make it look like we have more assets than we do." "Could buy us time," Harlan agreed. "But if they detect the ruse too early, they'll adjust." Elian's mind worked through the layers of strategy, calculating contingencies. "We also use the construct itself. If it's truly a beacon, then it's been broadcasting signals for centuries. There may be residual energy pockets in its core that we can manipulate." Harlan's eyes sharpened. "You're thinking of using its emissions as a weapon." "More like a shield," Elian clarified. "We reroute controlled bursts through our deflectors, mimicking its signature. If they're tracking the beacon's transmission, it might blind their sensors long enough for us to reposition." Harlan analyzed the feasibility. "It's risky. We'd be guessing at the exact frequencies, and too much redirection could overload our systems." "Then we calibrate in real time," Elian countered. "We won't get a second chance at this." A tense pause followed as the weight of the plan settled over the crew. Every decision from this point had to be deliberate. A single misstep, and they wouldn't live long enough to correct it. Harlan exhaled, already keying in the parameters. "I'll start running test simulations." Elian turned his gaze back to the tactical grid, their lone battleship against an unknown force, using a relic of an ancient war to turn the odds. It wasn't ideal, but it was war. "Execute preparations," he commanded, his voice calm, unwavering. "We make our stand here." The bridge erupted into controlled motion, men and machines aligning for battle. The clock was ticking. The Quantum Guardian would not be caught unprepared. The tactical grid flickered with updated readings as the Quantum Guardian systems executed Elian's orders. The drones deployed into the gravitational eddies, their stealth modules activating as they dispersed into the nebulous haze. Each unit emitted subtle energy fluctuations, mimicking warships lying in wait. "Decoys in position," Harlan reported, masking their signals to blend with the construct's emissions. Elian nodded, his gaze locked onto the main display. The distant quantum disturbances had sharpened into distinct signatures. The incoming fleet was massive, their formations tightening with precision. "Composition?" Elian asked, his tone unwavering. Harlan's fingers glided over the data streams. "At least 30 vessels mixed class. Majority are cruisers, but I'm picking up 4 capital-class warships. They're holding formation, no forward scouts. They expect dominance." Elian smirked. "Then let's make them rethink that assumption. Prep quantum shield modulation. I want us phased with the construct's energy signature before they get in range." Harlan's eyes flicked up from his console. "If we're off by even a fraction, they'll pinpoint the distortion and recalibrate." Elian's voice carried no hesitation. "That's why we don't stay in one frequency. We shift it continuously, like background radiation. If they track us, they'll be chasing ghosts." Harlan adjusted the parameters, running real-time computations, cycling through frequencies at irregular intervals. "It'll keep them second-guessing, but we'll have to burn through auxiliary power to sustain it." Elian turned to the weapons officer. "How's our firepower?" "Rail cannons primed, missiles locked and shadowed by the decoys. When they fire, they'll think they're coming from multiple ships," the officer confirmed. "Good, but we don't fire first, not yet," Elian instructed. "They assume we're outgunned. Let's make them act on that assumption." The bridge's lighting dimmed slightly as power redistributed. Outside, the Quantum Guardian became a shadow within the nebula, its quantum field bending the surrounding energy to mask its presence. The first enemy ships pierced the field's outer boundary, their hulls gleaming under the fractured light of the nebula. They moved with a confidence that bordered on arrogance, their formation unbroken. Harlan's voice remained steady. "They haven't detected us yet. They're scanning the decoys." Elian watched as the enemy split their forces, directing their attention toward the false signals. "Wait for it." His fingers curled against the console, each second stretching like a wire pulled too tight. Then the lead cruiser altered course, its prow angling toward one of the decoy pockets. "Now," Elian ordered. The decoy flared, mimicking a ship's weapons ignition, tricking the enemy's targeting systems. The cruiser responded immediately, its main batteries unleashing a volley of charged plasma rounds into empty space. The instant the enemy fired, the Quantum Guardian struck. Rail cannons roared, their kinetic rounds tearing through the exposed flank of the nearest ship. The missile shadowing the decoy completed its arc, slamming into the second vessel's primary drive core. Both ships lurched, their formations thrown into chaos. Elian's voice was steel. "Now they know we're here. Keep them guessing." The battle had begun, and the Quantum Guardian had drawn first blood. The Quantum Guardian moved like a phantom, striking and vanishing before the enemy could adjust. Plasma fire lanced through the void, cutting into the nebula's swirling dust, but none of it found its intended mark. The enemy fleet, so certain of their overwhelming advantage, now staggered under the weight of an opponent they could not pin down. "Another capital ship breaking formation." Harlan's voice carried urgency. "They're trying to reposition, but their battle net's fractured. Their coordination is slipping." Elian watched the display, his mind a battlefield of calculations. The enemy had size, firepower, and numbers, but they were fighting as if victory was inevitable. That arrogance had cost them already, and now it would cost them everything. "Push the deception," Elian ordered. Decoys shift again. I want them chasing ghosts while we cut them down one by one. Missiles peeled away from their concealed launch points, slipping through the chaos like silent predators. Impact after impact rippled across the enemy fleet, detonations casting flickering shadows across fractured hulls. 2 more enemy ships lost control, their drives flickering as they tumbled into the nebula's gravity wells, disappearing into the swirling abyss. "They still think we're multiple ships," Harlan said, awe creeping into his voice. "Let's make sure they never find out the truth," Elian murmured. The enemy fleet hesitated. Even through the distant void, their uncertainty was palpable. They had walked into the storm expecting an easy victory. Now they were bleeding, grasping for a fight they no longer controlled. Then the transmission came. A deep, guttural voice crackled through the bridge speakers, laced with frustration and disbelief. "Human vessel, identify yourself." Elian exhaled, then pressed the transmit key. His voice was steady, razor-sharp. "This is Captain Elian Mars of the Quantum Guardian." A pause. The enemy was recalibrating, trying to understand. "Impossible. You cannot be alone. Your intelligence is outdated," Elian interrupted. "Your fleet is breaking. Your battlenet is in ruins. Surrender, or what remains of your armada burns." Silence. The weight of it pressed against the bridge, thick with anticipation. Then the enemy's flagship shifted its trajectory, not toward a retreat, but a desperate charge. "They're trying to ram us," Harlan shouted. Elian's expression never wavered. "Let them come." The Quantum Guardian held its ground as the enemy warship closed the distance, its shields flickering, its weapons already depleted. It was a beast, lashing out in its death throes. "Deploy the quantum lock," Elian commanded. In an instant, the ship's experimental field surged outward, ensnaring the enemy vessel. It froze mid-charge, its form distorting as the Quantum Guardian's technology crushed the space around it. For a breathless moment, the enemy ship remained suspended, powerless. Elian's voice was a whisper of finality. "You were right about one thing. We are not alone. We never have been. Humanity fights as one." The field collapsed, and the enemy warship imploded, vanishing into nothingness. The remaining fleet, shattered and leaderless, sent out their final message. "We surrender." The enemy's final transmission still lingered on the bridge, hanging in the charged silence. "We surrender." 2 words that had shifted the tide of the battle, not with brute force, but with precision, deception, and the sheer will of humanity refusing to kneel. Captain Elian Mars exhaled slowly, his pulse steady even as the weight of victory pressed down on him. The enemy fleet, fractured and leaderless, drifted at the edge of the nebula, their surviving vessels dimming their weapons. "Status?" His voice was calm, but beneath it ran the undercurrent of finality. Harlan scanned the remaining forces. "They're holding position, Captain. No movement to regroup, no attempts to flee. They know it's over." His fingers tightened against the console. "I don't think they can process what just happened." Elian's gaze remained locked on the screen, where the wreckage of their adversaries painted the battlefield in the cold glow of distant stars. The Quantum Guardian, a lone battleship, had forced an entire fleet to its knees. "Open a channel," Elian ordered. A crackle of static. Then the line opened. Across the void, the enemy commander's voice came through, edged with something new, fear. This cannot be. No civilization evolves this quickly. No species masters war so efficiently." The voice wavered, as if grappling with the impossible. "What are you?" Elian leaned forward, his words measured and unyielding. "We are what you feared in the dark. The unknown force your kind never accounted for. The battle you thought was won before it began." The silence that followed was telling. "You think this ends here?" the commander rasped. "Our empire—" "Your empire has already lost," Elian interrupted, his voice cutting through the void. "Because you fought this war by old rules. You thought strength was measured in numbers, in brute force. You never considered that humanity would build a weapon you couldn't fight." Harlan exchanged a glance with the captain, understanding what he was about to do. Elian continued. his voice cold as the vacuum surrounding them. Your kind believed they would always be the ones to dictate the terms. You looked at humanity and saw nothing but primitives, unaware that we were watching, waiting, learning. And now you kneel before a single ship. The transmission flickered, but no response came. The enemy had no words left, only understanding. Elian straightened. Shut the channel down. The bridge remained quiet, the crew absorbing the weight of what had transpired. The Quantum Guardian had not just survived. It had shattered the arrogance of an empire, rewritten the rules of war. Harlan let out a slow breath. They'll never forget this day. Elian's expression was unreadable. No, they won't. He turned back to the viewport, where the remnants of the fleet still lingered, caught in the gravity of their own downfall. And neither will the galaxy. The battle was over, but its echoes would reach beyond the stars. The legend of the Quantum-Locked Human Battleship had been born. And now, no empire in the universe would ever underestimate humanity again.